So, Hema, we agreed on doing a few topics. So, here they are: how we show up as parents, emotions as a resource, and what limits us from change. So, can you tell me more about the topics? How we show up as parents? What are we going to talk about over there?
I think all these topics have been really playing on my mind. I mean, the second and third, that's a part of my job. Like I actively explore my clients' emotions, and of course, change is, especially considering post-pandemic, change is something that we've always been married to, and we just got a reminder of how big a plunge it was. But we'll talk a bit more about that in detail. But the one that is closest to my heart now is that how we show up as parents, our internal dialogue, what we what we often tell ourselves, our internal dialogue.
So, in about 30 seconds, what do you think the gist of that is for everyone to understand? What is it about?
We often tell ourselves either things that will help us or probably not help us from showing up as parents, as the kind of guardian, supporter, cheerleader that our kids would want us to have. And what my line of thought would be of what may help that, and what behaviors or what thought patterns may disrupt or be unhelpful for that. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us more. Yeah.
So, is it okay if I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah. So, because honestly, that's how my mind keeps rolling.
Of course.
So, perhaps not about yourself, but if you were to think about a parent and they would want to tune in and understand a bit more about how they can show up as better parents, what do you think they'll be having on their mind?
I wouldn't know him. All that I know is, see, they'll be having a lot on their mind, but it'll be very hard to place a finger on one. I mean, at least that's for me, because I always have this. Always think about things that I need to be a good parent. I need to be a good partner. These are the things that are consistently there in my mind, and I always want to know if I'm doing my bit. So at the same time, I have to keep my sanity, and my schedule of work is not is completely different. So when everybody comes home, that's when I go out and work, because I work in shift basis. So those are the things that do get challenging. I would love to spend more time with both my wife and daughter together. I do get time to spend with my daughter during the day, but you see, I miss out on spending time with my wife. So yeah.
Right, as you said in the beginning, you would struggle to put a pinpoint at it, and that really goes to show that not just you, me, lots of parents actually struggle. It is a vast area, and a huge part of that is when we are devoting ourselves, a huge part of ourselves, our best practices to a smaller human being. Where is time for us? Right, and that very often, especially in the early years, gets lost in the in that process of nurturing and making home for another human being. But and these are the practical bits, right? No, but what I'm talking about is what a person tells themselves. How what are the kind of thought processes that help them to show up. And one of the biggest things that I do want to talk about is self-doubt. Self-doubt, how open you are to receiving help, how perhaps sometimes defeated you feel if you had high expectations of yourself as a parent, especially new moms. I have, like I mentioned, I had a 1-year-old, and just at that point is when I started working with a lot of new mothers. So the kind of that difficulty, those emotions, they're very real, and it happens just at that cusp, when a lot of change is going on, and those are the beautiful years. You live them struggling, you don't really get those beautiful years back, right? I mean, Peterson talks about it quite a bit. That, the first 5, Jordan Peterson. Yeah, so he's the first 5 years are those those formative years. And then it's not just your presence, but even for you, they have a huge effect on your quality of life. So being able to being able to show up both for the child and for yourself, because those early memories are a huge part of the family that you create, or your relationship. So I think that's a bit of what I would like to talk about. I think that went on for a bit, and you wanted a more concise one.
No. This one I want a very detailed one, because like you said, the early years is very essential. There are other things that I want to speak about. You did mention you're a mom as well, and when you were going through certain challenges. Can we talk about mom's guilt? All working moms have this particular
Yes.
thing. So can we go there, because that's one topic that I'd like to lean on, if that is a part of this, how we show up as parents, as an internal dialogue.
Internal dialogue for moms, but we'd love to explore how it goes for dad as well.
Yes, please. Yes, that's the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. Mom guilt. I think it's at this point I feel it's a very known term, right? A lot of people, both men and women, parent or non-parent, they know in theory what it's like, but the true nature of what mom guilt, it's from different angles. When you step away from a child where you're the primary caregiver, and you have that connection, you have that yearning back and forth, both for the child and for yourself, to be together, to be in each other's arms. But then there's the reality bit of where certain things are on the line. When 6 months, 8 months, a year, at what point are you supposed to step away and look into your career, be concerned about your future? So that divide between the different roles that you play, if you're a teacher, if you are someone's mentor, if you're a boss, if you are an employee, if you're a team member. So it's not, definitely mom takes precedence. The role of mom takes precedence, but then there are other ones that come in as well. And then when that burden, I'm going to call it burden, yes, when individuals have to pretty much dissect themselves and, pass the pie around, there's always that lacking. Unfortunately, we have to kind of invite the reality that, or accept the reality that, or maybe see it in a different light or perspective, that you are a part of different roles. And that is perhaps one of the ways that you can get through that difficult phase, because there is that lacking and that void will hurt. So that's how I think about how that phase and how intense it can get at times when you can't be there for your child.
Is it from a professional experience or your personal one that you're speaking?
It's from both, to be honest, because my personal experience will always inform my professional experience, because and that's a huge part of what we do. Even in our trainings, we as psychologists, we are supposed to work on ourselves first, and then see how that. It's not like your client is talking to a blank wall. It's talking to a person.
Right.
You are a human being. You're not the know-it-all person in the room, and it's a bit scary if you try to pretend to be that way. You are the human. You need to allow the humanness to come through and connect to the person, and I think that is what my clients appreciate as well. My clients, of course, we don't make it about a casual conversation, but then they see how real, how perhaps you understand what that experience is. There are times when you, this is actually one of those professional skills, it's called self-disclosure, just as the name suggests. There are times when you disclose things about yourself when it is useful for the therapeutic process, but not for you. It's not your therapy space, right? Not the therapist's therapy space. So when you feel like it's useful for the client or it makes sense, and you have to have that plan in the back of your mind, you share things or traumas that, or even case studies that you've worked with, and you see how that may give them hope, or perhaps that may inform them. It could even be an example, that could show them a better perspective.
So, if I'm getting you right, is this since you mentioned Brené Brown, she also talks about sharing vulnerability when it comes to you feel that the other person can better connect or maybe share what's troubling them, just to build trust.
Definitely, it's a huge part of rapport. But then again, when it comes to a therapeutic purpose, your primary aim is to make sure that it is a useful thing to share.
Of course.
And vulnerability need not be your entire traumas, right? It can be you being real with the person. You talk, and even that manner of connecting with the person, sharing your emotions. Like, for example, saying that. You know what, Sarah, I have a sense of anger that you went through that. You know, that kid shouldn't have done that to you when you were 6. So it's true, showing your, perhaps not, I mean, in this case, perhaps not vulnerability, but your genuine emotion there.
Right.
Because a blank canvas kind of therapist perhaps wouldn't show that, wouldn't say their true feelings. But sometimes they feel there's some clients end up feeling that there is someone on their side, or I can speak more, or that the person in front of me is real.
Right.
So perhaps that helps.
Then
I think we deviated a bit, didn't
yeah,
we?
but that's fine. That's fine. Dad's guilt.
I think this is a huge. There is a lot of void when it comes to understanding the process of a father, and sometimes the cultural expectation and sometimes the true experience of men, they perhaps clash. You know, what I'm expected to do. I'm expected to be there for my wife who's expecting. Once the baby comes, it's a huge confusion. What am I supposed to do in the labor room? What am I supposed to do? So it's very, very unfortunate that I feel a lot of men are not informed on what to expect, on how they can actually be a huge anchor for their women counterparts,
Right.
who don't really need much of solution, but just their psychological, emotional presence. I think this is big. That just as we were talking about vulnerability, the fact that they can absorb what is the sense in the room, the tension in the room. I think that is a huge resource when it comes to supporting, building a family. And a lot of new dads, it's very, very natural that they don't always connect. There are a lot of things that happen very systemically, mom's getting worried that the dad is not connecting with the child. I think when you start worrying on that tangent, it perhaps escalates. There are new systems that come in place, like there is the distance sort of widens, between dad and child, or dad and wife, husband and wife.
Right.
So because the mom starts to compensate, and the dad doesn't have an opportunity to grow his natural feelings sometimes. And there is this, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, maternal gatekeeping. I think it was in that book called Lean In, and it's a popular concept where dads sometimes don't get it right, and moms feel the need to overly lean in, step in, and do it correctly, do things correctly for the child. But what's most important is that dads also need to have an opportunity to make their mistakes. And they learn through that. And dads also have a wonderful, unique way of connecting with their children. Most mums maybe need to allow that to take place and add its space. So both mom and dad dad and child feel safe enough, and they have their own lingo, their own way of connecting. And mom probably needs to step back a bit. On the other hand, if you step in, you're probably disrupting the possibilities that relationship can have.
All right. How does one overcome that? So there has to be an understanding between mom, dad, and the child.
You're gonna like my answer. Faith.
Okay.
Because that whole phase is a huge learning curve. for the baby to come into the world, for mom to understand what she is doing, what her body is doing, how she's emotionally supposed to react to a crying baby, how she's supposed to keep up emotionally with her body that's changing. And for dad as well, because a lot of, again, what culture has dictated has changed a lot over the past 50 years. And allowing that time, allowing mistakes to come up, allowing yourself to make mistakes. And this is a huge part of the internal dialogue. Are you okay with falling from those high benchmarks that you set out for yourself? And to show up as parents again. So if you make a mistake, if you raise your voice at a child who's not listening, but that was a no-go for you, say 4 years ago, before you even had a child, what is the immediate thing that you tell yourself? Do you beat yourself up? How do you find that what is your process of emotional regulation? A huge part of it is actually taking time for yourself to de-escalate, finding time for yourself, and allowing each, dad allowing mom to do it, mom allowing dad to do it, and respecting that this is an important part of allowing, making that learning curve not to be too steep. So allowing time for each other.
What about the ones who are not aware of such processes or such kind of information?
Thankfully, there are lots of medium out there for people, who are not aware. If they have the tiniest bit of curiosity, there's a lot of information that can actually readily go to them. There are so many parenting programs that you don't even have to pay for. You have one-to-one sessions, even in Dubai. But you have so many videos on YouTube, and information is available from not just, actually from both professionals and lots of parents who are, first-time moms and dads. So what I would perhaps wish that, any new parent would want is a bit of curiosity on how they can tune themselves towards their child. And that little bit of curiosity will go a long way. And for those who may not have that curiosity, there is that risk of rupture in the relationship in the long term.
Right.
So it's that attunement towards your child, and it doesn't need to be. It's not like one size fits all. Every advice never wouldn't always work for every child, right?
Right.
So it's important that you're available, emotionally available, and you listen. And the first thing that comes to your mind is this safe? Is it safe enough to do what she is expecting me to do? And if not, how can I put that boundary kindly, but at the same time make sure that she or he grows in a way that is, without hindrance, but with me by her side.
Something that I wanted to ask you is, when is it too late? Because you said that over a long period of time, the relationship ruptures. So when is it too late?
Lovely question. Never.
Okay.
Really, even if it's after a rupture, I have moms and, daughters coming in, dads bringing their daughters in. Even when your child is in there, much later on in life, if you feel you suddenly have that curiosity, there's always a possibility, as long as your child is open to still having those conversations. So, it's always a possibility. The only downside is that perhaps many years would have passed by with that rupture, and you not having known that there is a rupture.